Hey everybody. Well, I caved in and I bought a new oil pan. So I wanted to do a quick little side-by-side for you guys. The main reason for buying the pan was that the sump setup that I wanted to do, the trapdoor baffle system I wanted to do in here, just was not going to work. There just is not enough space down here. And with the bottom of the pan not being anywhere near level, it was just going to be an absolute nightmare to try to get that to work. So I finally caved and went and bought this. This is a full road race pan that's made by Canton. Functionally, this is everything I need. You know, we got the little trap doors there. Okay. So as you go through, and this is the diamond shape, as opposed to this being clocked 90 degrees. With it twisted like this 90 degrees, that way you're always allowing oil to travel in and out as needed, regardless of what way you're turning or acceleration, deceleration, etc. So get a little better peek in there maybe. You know, it's not a really complex system, but very effective. So you basically break it up into 4 quadrants, and oil sits in there and it moves around as needed to get into this sump, and then that is where your oil pickup sits. So I had to buy the oil pickup, the pan, the dipstick, and this one. Also, I got the this little guy here, which then goes on the block. So actually the pan will sit down first, and then this sits on the block there, or sits on the pan, sorry. So the pan, and then this goes on the rail of the pan. And then this is a -10 AN fittings. So that way you can run your oil lines. I have a remote oil filter mount set up here. So we'll plumb that in. We'll have the line coming in from the pan, then a line going out to a catch can. This guy here. Okay. So oil in there, back out, back to there, and then finally back to the pan. So that way we've got, and then this way I can also run the good Wix Racing filters that I've been running. For whatever reason, the LS engines do not have a listing for any Wix Racing filters. But with this little guy here, you know, it's out of the way. It doesn't matter what size filter I run, so I can continue to run these. I really like those. But on a positive note, as I disassembled this yet again, this is a brand new O-ring I put on. I oiled this, put oil on it before I put it in. I made sure that was oiled. I was gentle. But this gives you an idea of just how easy it is to tear these O-rings. Look at that. It's a good thing I was doing this, because I would have been wondering why the hell I have no oil pressure. And that would have been the reason right there. We would have had a ton of oil seeping past or blowing past the O-ring, and it would have just been blowing out into here, you know, getting back down into the pan, sucking back up through the pickup, and blowing back out right here again. And the engine would be getting little to no oil pressure, the rest of the engine. So if you want a good way to lose oil pressure and smoke your bearings and kill your engine, that's step 1 right there. So thankfully this one comes with yet another O-ring. I actually have another extra as well. So this time I will have to be extra careful when I put that in. Dimensionally, you know, the factory pan is it's deeper than the new one. So we're looking at about, roughly 8 1/4 inches. This one is 6 1/2, 6 3/4 almost. Width-wise and sump, we're about 12 inches, whereas the factory one is roughly 8 1/4. Sump depth front to back is 8 inches on the Canton, and on the OE truck pan, we're roughly, about 8 inches, so that's about the same. And then one other dimension, the truck pan kind of goes at an angle all the way back, but right before the sump, it's about 3 inches deep, and up at the very front, it's about 2 1/4. Whereas this one is like all the way across. It's about 2 inches, maybe a little less even. So I think I'm gonna be all right. The biggest issue for me was this here, because we're gonna be sitting, the front, the engine cross member basically is gonna be sitting right here. And we've got, maybe an inch or so of space here. We're actually gonna end up with more space up here, which I just thought about. So I might be able to actually lower the engine mount another inch and get that engine down a little further even yet. So yay, lower center of gravity. But like I said, functionally, this is gonna do everything I need it to. I was honestly a bit disappointed with the fit and finish of this. I mean, you can probably tell even from this thing looks like it was cut out by a guy with a freaking grinder and a cutoff wheel, honestly. I think I could have done a neater job with a reciprocating saw. So it's not the prettiest. I actually went through here with a couple fine files and some fine sandpaper, and I cleaned up all these. I mean, there was literally like shards of metal on some of these edges, which obviously you don't want falling into your pan and getting into your pickup and oil pump, etc. So I had to do some definite cleanup on it. So I wasn't super pumped about that, especially considering how much these things cost. And but it is what it is. It's done now. Yeah, there's your drain there. And I believe that's magnetic. Yes, magnetic drain plug there. Aside from the fit and finish on the inside, it's a nice pan. It looks like it's hand welded. It doesn't look like it's machine welded. I could be wrong, but I don't know many robots that. I could be wrong. It's hard to say. So, big difference with the sheet metal pan is obviously the rail thickness is considerably thinner versus the factory cast aluminum. This is not going to be a structural piece, so to speak, like I think the factory pan may be. Don't quote me on that. I could be wrong. But I'm also not running nitrous or tons of boost or, forced induction. We're just basically running probably not even 300 horse at the flywheel. So it's just a stock motor as far as power goes. So this should be just fine. My main interest was getting things to live and keeping oil where it needs to be. And that is the more important thing here. So, but just wanted to give you guys a little side-by-side, see what things look like, one versus the other. And yeah, so that's what we're doing. All right, thanks. So sometimes when you solve a problem, you create another. I was just about to put the new pickup on for the oil pump with the new race pan, and ran into a little issue here with clearance. As I've shown you guys before, I have this mesh in here to help with oil control inside the pan. And, well, that happens to raise the windage tray up just enough that when I put this guy in here, it does not want to sit down because this inside corner here is actually hitting the windage tray. So, awesome, right? Yeah, created another issue by solving the other one. But I know it's because I've got the washer and then that screen in there. So it's raising the windage tray up just enough to get in the way. So probably gonna have to scrap the mesh idea and take those washers out and just stick with the factory windage tray setup, which, not the end of the world, but kind of sucks. So yeah, just another thing for you guys to look out for when you're working on your oiling systems. The pickup tube on the some of the lower profile pans can cause you a problem there. So anyway, there's that. Okay, so back on this oil pickup. Sometimes the brother just can't catch a break, you know? So I took out the screen, the windage screen that I made. I also removed the washers, and I even pulled out the crank scraper that was on this side where the pickup is. And as I've just got things in there and kind of finger tight, and you can still see that this, where is my finger? There we go. That this right here is not sitting flush with the oil pump, okay? This is the flange on the oil pickup. This should be sitting flat and flush against the oil pump. That way the O-ring inside there, which isn't on there right now because I'm just test fitting it, but that way the O-ring can do its job and seal everything up. So as it sits right now, yeah, I'm going to have to, I marked in there with some marker. I'm going to clearance this out because that's where it's hitting, is right in this corner. I'm going to clearance that out on the windage tray a little bit and see if that helps, because I am absolutely not running this without the crank scraper. That was one of the big reasons for starting this whole endeavor. Between that and the trapdoor baffle system in the oil pan, I mean, those are the two things that I really, really need to have in here. So we got to figure out a way to make it work. I think there's not a ton of clearance there between the pickup tube and the windage tray. So once this drops down, will probably be, hopefully I've got enough room there, and that can sit flush on the windage tray, and we can get this down into the pump so it can seat up properly. So we'll see what happens here. And the hits just keep on coming, people. Oh, so come to find out that there is in fact a windage tray from Canton specifically for these LS pans. And it essentially has the screen built into it, and the issues with the pickup tube here is resolved by their pan essentially not having any material in this section right here, which is right where their pickup tube interferes with the factory windage tray. So that will take care of that, so I have to order that. But another issue I'm running into here, I figured I'd slap it on just to make sure there wasn't any other problems. These are the factory bolts. That is snugged down all the way, and obviously we got an issue there. They're too long because the new pan, you know, it's just sheet metal here, okay? It's thick sheet metal, but it's sheet metal, and you can see the thickness there. That's nowhere near as thick as the rail on the factory aluminum pan. So that is where that discrepancy is coming from there. Now granted, there's some holes here on the pan rail that are just open. They go all the way through, and the length of the bolt won't matter. But obviously we have some that are not, like those two up front, the ones that go here down into this rear cover. Those might be okay, but regardless, I'm just going to order some new bolts that are probably either 15 or 20. These are 15 millimeter ones that I had stuffed in there. Those work just fine. They're M8 bolts and 15 millimeter. The factory ones are a 30 millimeter bolt for length, so they're way too long. Maximum length, if I measured right, would be about 22, 23 millimeters. So a 20 millimeter would be about perfect, I think. So that being said, now I need to order bolts too. But I test fitted the dipstick that goes in there. That actually worked fine. I'll have to cut the tube down to get the right length into the pan for the dipstick itself. But everything threaded up okay there. This is the fitting for the dash 10 lines that come off the pan. So obviously the filter is not going to sit here like it would in the factory location. We'll have 2 dash 10 fittings. I'm thinking maybe a 90 and then like a 45 here, because we got the exhaust coming out right there. So we got to make sure, you know, I can't come out here and go a 90 this way, obviously, because we're going to run right into the exhaust. So it's probably going to come down and back. And then I can run it probably to the firewall. Let's see, this would be the driver's side. So the firewall and then back over this way towards the passenger side and put the catch can and all that stuff over on the passenger side of the firewall. So I think I have discovered all of the issues with the new pan. And once I get the rest of the parts in, we can come back again and see if everything's going to work this time. So like, you know, I don't know, 12th time's a charm or something like that. So, all right. Thanks, guys.